Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome. It is Wednesday, depending on which country you live in, but it's Wednesday for me. It's Wednesday for Chris B. Chris, welcome back to the show. Every time you're on, I get really good comments about you, not me, about you after the show. People loving your dry sense of humor. Good morning, and how do you feel about this?
It was something I was born with.
Yeah.
It's always nice to hear. I'll let my parents hold the accolades for that. It's Wednesday. We are 14 days close to Christmas, and come the new year, I can stop drinking and eating so much. So the world is a good place to be if we're not talking about Tottenham. But the whole purpose of this show is Tottenham, so I guess things are about to get a lot worse.
Yeah, look, and you missed a golden opportunity there to say it's who I am, mate. I mean, I set you up with the angepostecoglou banter line, and you just didn't hit it. But Chris, today we were talking yesterday about what do we want to talk about, and I think you came out and said, look, let's talk about with what's needed. Look, we can talk all day long about how poor it's been, about the manager we've got, about the owners we've got, but realistically, we can't change the past. The owners aren't going anywhere anytime soon. The manager appears to be staying. So realistically, let's look at what's needed on the pitch. Before we look at what's needed, it's been a very interesting week. As always, Chris, Spurs not even playing, but we're in the media. The likes of Jamie Carragher breaking down our tactics to the point where it makes me go, we're awful. All of the pundits now on TalkSport and Sky are all saying that we're tactically inept. What do you make of Spurs? Before we go into what we need to get better, what have you made of Spurs this year? Because we were told everything gets better in his second year. He actually came out in the summer and said, look, we're a stronger squad. We've learnt from last year. We're better prepared. So what do you make of this first 15 league games and obviously the cup game? I think we've had 7 cup games so far. What do you make of Spurs at the moment?
We're no different from the 11th game of last season onwards. The form has continued. We have regressed on the pitch. We are conceding goals left, right, and centre. And even when all of those upbeat fans were saying, but we're entertaining, we play really quick moving football, we created this word angepostecoglou, which means absolutely nothing. But since then, we've gone completely backward. And all of those things that he says, it's just who we are, mate, and we come to be entertained. It's about winning games. It's about exciting football. With the exception of the first 17 minutes on Sunday, we haven't seen that for weeks and weeks and weeks. Mm-hmm. And my biggest thing about Ange's, without turning this into an Ange show, is that you look how the media was so condescending and cutting towards Eric Ten Hag. You look how Russell Martin at Southampton's been getting pelters on a regular basis. You look at some of the other managers, Lopetegui at West Ham, they've all been, by mainstream media, hung out to dry, and people have been very critical of them. Why does Ange get a free pass and a free ride when nobody, with the exception of Carragher and others on Sunday, finally woke up to the facts that he is a very poor manager, very average, and he's not prepared to change his ways? And only yesterday,
I think that's slowly.
Yesterday, I read a really condescending article about him written by Mark Bosnich. So you had another Australian saying, I speak to Ange, we communicate. I have been telling him for the last 10 years that he needs to change his ways to survive in European football. Shocker, he hasn't. And that says a lot about the man. This is a man who's 60 next year, 59 at the moment. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. And this guy is never going to change. So we continue to regress on the pitch. There is no happiness. I go, like many other people, go to the games week in, week out. I write off about 5-6 hours of my day to go to the games. And when was the last time I was generally entertained? It was probably getting home and watching Strictly Come Dancing. Nothing on that pitch makes you think, I'm proud to be a Tottenham fan, or, brilliant. But it is who we are at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, some really interesting points there, Chris. And I do think that, as this person says, I do think the free ride is now kind of coming to a stop. And you're right, though, for 18 months, I hear pundits say things like, oh, Tottenham, they're brilliant. And I truly think, have you taken a step back to see the results and the style of play? I feel like a lot of people don't actually look at it. And after the game the other day, I think, Merson, who I don't normally agree with, but Merson, Carragher, Redknapp absolutely got it spot on about Spurs. Keane said it last week. Hoddle and Redknapp last week both said how wide open we are and that he needs a defensive midfielder. We've seen this week, Jason Kunde, Jamie O'Hara were laughing at us. Darren Bent and Andy Goldstein on their show were saying that we're tactically inept. I think more and more people now are realizing that, yes, there's this notion of just get behind a manager, but I find it really hard, Chris, to get behind a manager that I don't believe in. I want to pick up something you've just said there, Chris, which is really important, is the message from Mark Bosnich. He was interviewed on Sky Sports and was saying all these things. And I think that was the key thing that he said. Look, he said, I worked with him 10 years ago. And I told him, one day you're going to be in the Premier League. You can't do this in the Premier League. You can't do this. And he said, all I ever get from Ange is just do plan A better, mate. And it's telling, isn't it, that it sounds good, Chris. It sounds like a fairy tale. He dreamt, he did something that no one else can do. He's like the Steve Jobs of football. No one could ever create an iPhone, but it's not creating anything at the moment. And I think a lot of fans are coming around to that way of thinking, aren't they, Chris?
Yeah, I think so. And we've got to ask ourselves a question. We were all very quick and we were all very quick to hound out Nuno Espirito Santo. But in hindsight, potentially, were we a little unfair on that man when you see what he's now achieving and the style of football that's being played at the City Ground. Mm-hmm. So for years, we have all the dog's abuse that Ten Hag got at Manchester United. He won them a League Cup and an FA Cup in successive seasons. When was the last time we ever won anything? And we go on this rinse and repeat cycle where we have not seen good football for such a long period of time. Our fans have become unaccustomed to world-class players. We haven't had a world-class player at that stadium for a long time, and it's as if we are becoming happy with mediocrity and second best, and we've got to change the whole philosophy of the club, reset, and try and do what we're intending to do, and that's play good, attractive football again. It's not going to happen under this guy.
No, and I think what keeps happening, Chris, big up to the Swing Squad, by the way. Big up to each and every one of you in the chat. Please do smash the like button. It is appreciated. So far, we've got 145 people in here and growing and only 29 likes. So we've got a Richarlison conversion rate going on at the moment. And I need a little bit closer to Harry Kane or Son. One of those, please.
But thankfully, we haven't paid 65 million for the resources to try and score those goals in this chat room.
No, absolutely, yeah. No one's paying 65 million for me. Yeah, it is what it is. Look, I think what's happening, Chris, is we're in a WhatsApp group, and lots of I think half our WhatsApp group, which has been together, by the way, people. This is a WhatsApp group that's been together for about a decade. It started on
self-help group, isn't it? You didn't tell me it was a WhatsApp group.
It is now. Free counselling sessions, but it kind of started back on the day on Twitter, didn't it? And then we moved it over to WhatsApp years ago, and half the group are like, right, he's got to go. He's going to go. One more defeat, he's going to go. But Chris, he just does enough, doesn't he? He just gets enough results to save him for the sack, but he can't quite seem to get that run going of, oh, well, we've only lost 1 in 6. And I don't mean Coventry, Ferencvaros, Alkmaar, Karabag. I mean Premier League. Can we go 6 games where you go, oh, we've won 5 and lost 1? He can't quite get there, can he?
And it's only the occasional 2 or 3 wins followed by 5 games without a win that keeps him in the job. And the next 4 are a massive banana skin for him. We're going to Ibrox on Thursday night, where as the ex-Celtic manager, he's going to get a reception akin to Sol Campbell returning to the Tottenham Stadium. Then we're at Southampton on Sunday at 7:00 in the evening. Let me guess. We're up against a team who are in a relegation battle. Dr. Tottenham will be seeing you. Then we got a quarter-final of the League Cup against Man United.
Was you going to say the Coca-Cola Cup?
Game. Yeah, I was about to.
Was you going to say, how old are you, mate?
Yeah, too old. And then, so the next 4 games, none of them are easy. But the way we're playing, you wouldn't be surprised if we walked out that sadly with nothing.
Yeah, this is the difficulty. I mean, look, somebody said to me yesterday, you know, what results you expect in the next 2 games, and realistically, we should be saying, right, we're going to beat Rangers because they're not that good, and we're going to beat Southampton because they're bottom of the Premier League. They're one of only 3 teams, Chris, that have lost more games than us. By the way,
yeah,
that's a shocking stat. We'll get to what we need in a minute, but I think you're right. And what I always find really funny, Chris, you know me by now. I find it funny how we've changed as a fan base. It's kind of gone from, oh my God, this guy is superb. You watch him in his 2nd season. We've got loads of brilliant kids that are better than, you know, I heard Bergvall and Gray make the squad stronger than Skip and Højbjerg. Now, I'm not saying keep Skip and Højbjerg, Chris, but if you sell them, replace them, people were saying, oh my God, these 2 make the squad stronger. Now that we're losing games regularly, it's now all switched back to Levy, who I know you don't like Levy and I don't like Levy, but it's now switched from the manager's brilliant, we're going to kick on, to Daniel Levy is the devil. You know, he didn't back Ange. Do you think as a fan base, this kind of sums up where we are, just a bit all over the place, like in terms of our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions? Are we all over the place?
We're like a kite in the wind. We go all over the place, don't we? And our fans are very easy to appease. And to the younger generation who have images of footballers as their profile pic on X, formerly known as Twitter, we get on the bandwagon. We start coming out with nonsense statements. We use the word generational, once in a lifetime talent. But these are young kids who have never seen your Gazas, they've never seen your Ginolas, they've never seen your Bells, they've never seen your Dembélés, they've never seen your Modric's. They have forgotten what a good talent looks like. We have some of these kids were supposed to come into the team and make us amazing, yet they've struggled for minutes. The 2 players you mentioned, I tell you now, I'd have kept Pierre-Emile Højbjerg because he offers something that none of the other squad do at the moment, and that is a captaincy feature. And he's got a bit of ability to defend, and he'll get stuck in. He might not be the greatest player in the world, but if I was in a punch-up, I'd rather have him alongside me than some of the dozy wags that we've got at the moment. Would you trust Bazuma to guide you across the road? I think not. You'd get run over very quickly. The man's a dozy, brain-dead imbecile who just isn't an elite-level footballer and doesn't take us forward. It's time we said goodbye to him.
I mean, Chris, I think the difficulty that I have with this is I feel I'm not necessarily Basuma. I feel like we could apply that logic and just insert said player's name in the box. Like we were talking on last night's show, Chris, about, you know, if I woke up tomorrow and if I woke up and the first thing I saw was...
Well, I hope you do, as you're due to fly abroad on holiday.
Yeah, so me too.
Your missus missed out that opportunity.
Yeah, well, she'd probably go. She'd still go. Yeah, she'll deal with my funeral when she gets home. But if we woke up tomorrow and I received a WhatsApp from Chris B saying, Romero's been sold, Bentancur's been sold, Basuma's been sold, like, there's no part of me that would go, what? We've sold... I genuinely don't have that love for any of these players where I think you are going to be part of a really good, successful team. And that screams volumes, doesn't it, as to where we're at?
You can see the game that Romero's trying to initiate. He doesn't want to be at the club. He's trying to manage his own exit. So all of a sudden he starts saying all of the players are behind Ange. If you sack Ange, we're off. And he also knows that if he stands up and says things to the room, that's going to piss off Daniel and the board, and they'll be looking to get rid of him. So one way or another, he's going to get his wish, which is to leave Tottenham Football Club. He doesn't want to be there. His performances have reflected that. Hands on hips, thinking that he's Johan Cruyff. Even on Sunday, he gets a sideways pass in the box. The natural thing is to put your laces through it and hit it 40 yards upfield. He tries to turn, and in the process ruptures, tweaks his ACL ligament. You ask why?
Yeah, I mean, look, Chris, I'm going to go a bit backwards. I'm going to go a bit of arse about face about the next section. I want to talk about what we need to buy and what you think we need to do in January and in the summer. But before that, and this is where it's going to be a bit backwards, my worry is people keep saying, oh, well, if we had different owners and if we backed him. Chris, my worry is I don't believe in this manager so much. I mean, this isn't like with other managers where I've gone, oh, I'm not like Pochettino, right? Pochettino was a really good manager. And there were question marks about, okay, if he is backed with loads of money, what would his signings look like? And obviously you don't know, yada, yada, yada. But I wanted to find out. Under Poch, I wanted to find out what would this man do if you give him a 60, 70, 80 million pound player. Chris, I don't know if you feel the same. And if you don't, please feel free to, you're never shy in telling me what you think. Do you want, let's assume some billionaire takes over Spurs. They pump in, here you go, you've got 400 million pounds over January and the summer. Would you really want Ange and this philosophy, these tactics to be the manager that gets those big signings?
If a new investor comes into the club, they have to clear out, strip the club of anybody who was related to the previous failings, anybody that bought into the previous DNA of the club, and they need to get their own people in. So even the dogs are agreeing. So they need to start fresh. They need to bring their whole complete own coaching side in, and they need to get rid of anything related or having anything to do with Ange.
Are they all right?
I think that Amazon delivery's just turned up.
Oh, God, yeah. The moment the door goes, dogs just come into their own, don't they? They just lose their minds. Listen, Chris, I've said before, people keep saying back this manager, give him a few more windows. And the one that we get a lot, the one that we get loads is, well, look how long it's taken Arteta. By the way, Arteta, who's not got over the line yet. I know the FA Cup in the first year, but who's not got over the line with his own team and nearly £1 billion spent. I do not, this is just me, my opinion, I do not want to see £1 billion over the next few years spent with Ange Postecoglou at the wheel. I genuinely don't believe this style of football will work, even if you gave him Franz Beckenbauer, Maldini, Messi. I think this is the most wide open I've ever seen a football team play, Chris.
I think the writing was on the wall when Timo Werner arrived back at the club in the summer. And anybody who knows football was like, why the hell's this guy arrived? Is it because nobody else wants him? It's a comfortable ride for him and he continues to get big money. But anybody who knows football and knows Tottenham were like, complete waste of a squad place, complete waste of a salary. But the most defining words were him saying, every player coming into the club is my decision. He's made some really bad decisions, like Werner for one. Brennan Johnson, is he worth 45 million of your good British sterling pounds? And then when you think collectively 130 million on Richarlison and Solanke, I'm not knocking Solanke, but he's not a 65 million pound footballer, is he? And he never will be.
I'll knock him. Look, it's not his fault. When I say I'll knock him, I won't knock him. I'll knock Spurs. Look, you know, you've got the entire look. By the time Spurs had signed Dominic Solanke, Lang and his team had been here since what, October last year? November. So they'd had by the time we bought him in what, the July, end of July, beginning of August. So by the time that they'd been here 8-9 months, and you're telling me, not you, but you know, the football world is telling me that across 8 or 9 months, the best striker they could find across European and world football for 60, 65 million was Dominic Solanke at the age of 27, who's had one good year in the Premier League.
All I can think is that Levy said we're not spending any money on EasyJet or Ryanair flights, so your scouting's got to stick within the United Kingdom because the world is a very big place, yet we are blind outside of the UK. So it was a lazy signing. When you think about the qualities and the talents that the likes of Brighton bring in, it's all about doing due diligence, having good scouts, knowing the world game and being able to see something in a player. Last time we tried it and failed spectacularly was Alejandro Veliz, or whatever his name is, the Argentinian centre forward we brought in, who looks like he couldn't hit a barn door, and he's got the pace and mobility of a 60-year-old. So when we've tried to explore that South American market, we've dismally failed, which is evidenced by, with the exception of Sandro, every Brazilian to ever play for Tottenham. Name me a decent one in the years gone by.
Just quickly, the Boomverse. I feel like again, it's kind of like you got to listen to the context of what we said about Højbjerg. What I said, I don't know, Chris can speak for himself. What I said was I was all up for selling him. I didn't think he was good enough. But the point is, if you're going to let a senior pro like Højbjerg go, you do not replace him with two 18-year-old kids. You can buy the 18-year-old kids, but you've got to go and buy a senior pro. This isn't revisionism. I don't want Højbjerg at the club. But you've got to look, we sold Ndombele, Lo Celso, Skip, and Højbjerg in the summer. Now, I'm cool with all four going, Chris. But we've replaced 4 with 2. And the 4 that we've replaced, let's be fair, I'm just trying to think, Skip is a seasoned pro now. Skip's been around Premier League football long enough. We've replaced 4 seasoned pros with 2 18-year-old kids that had never played Premier League football. So that was the point I was making, Chris. I don't know if you agree or not. That was my...
Completely agree. And the rhetoric for these decisions are baffling, and it's all about, these are the players that Ange wants. He wants them for the long term because he believes he's going to be here 3 or 4 years. News breaking, you're not, buddy. So this whole philosophy around why we're signing these players holds no weight whatsoever. He'll be gone. The next manager will come in. Surprise, surprise. He'll decide he needs instant maturity and quality. These guys won't be seeing a first team shirt for some time, if at all they ever do break into the team.
I completely agree with you. What I don't get about this is I'm all for having a couple of young talents around the squad, but who on earth decided that a club that are in the top 6 of the Premier League in terms of where we finished last year and where we normally finish,
an 8th in the Deloitte World Money League, has the 8th
in the Deloitte Money League
in the universe.
So we're a top 6 Premier League club, 8th in the Deloitte Money League, right? We're in 4 competitions, including Europe. Who on earth decided that what we need is loads of kids? Like, who on earth decided, do you know what Spurs need? We don't need senior pros. And the worst thing is Ange has fed that rhetoric over the last 3 or 4 months, saying, I wanted youth. It was the right thing to do, was to buy the youth. But then he goes on to say, I didn't want leaders. And it's like, do you believe that, Ange, or did Levy and Lang tell you that? If they did tell him that and he's just going with it, again, we're just going round in circles.
Well, it says one or two things to me. It says that he's either doing what I did as a kid and playing Championship Manager, where you wanted to get from the Vauxhall Conference to the Champions League with only players under 17 years of age. That was a thing that I used to do for a giggle. Or
we'll leave that to Perchy, Chris.
Yeah, or he's worried about having seasoned pros in the changing rooms because they might call out his tactics when they're not working.
Right.
If you get youngsters, you can do something called grooming them. Grooming is a bad thing, boys and girls. Don't do it. But that is what he's clearly trying to do, is trying to groom these youngsters, impression them, and try and get them to believe to his philosophies. Yet, if you had experience in the room who had played under your Contes and your Jose's and your proven winners, they might actually say, this is baffling. What are we doing? It's not working. We're conceding week in, week out. The opposition are getting so much of the ball. They're having too much possession. Coach, we're getting this wrong. He doesn't want opposing voices in the changing room.
Do you know what? There's a lot to be said for that. If there were more seasoned winning pro footballers in this squad, they would have been knocking on this door from last season saying, Gaffer, we're wide open here. Like, you can't do it. You can't play like this.
But none of that squad have ever won anything. So they haven't been on the journey of experiencing success. And even in the old days, when you used to bring players into the team, we had 2 fantastic central midfielders once upon a time playing alongside each other, Victor Wanyama and Moussa Dembele. And you think as a prepubescent kid breaking into the Tottenham first team from the academy, how having a chaperone and a minder throughout the game could develop you as a athlete and as a person, learning from a seasoned pro. You look in the squad at the moment, who is that person you go to for advice? I wouldn't go to Basuma for advice. Papa Matassar is a young man himself. He needs somebody to help him out. But there's that lack of experience, lack of worldly knowledge, lack of leadership. And you look at Son, man's a stuttering, blathering idiot. He's lost it as a footballer. But if I was on the battlefield, I wouldn't turn to him for confidence, and I also wouldn't see any leadership qualities to guide you through 90 minutes. We do this little huddle before a game. Christ knows what we're discussing during that last night's TV, perhaps, because we lack an identity, we lack strength, we lack leadership. Halfway through the game, I'm struggling. I look to the touchline. I've got a blithering idiot with his hands in his pockets, looking at the ground, shaking his head. When Fulham were at our ground 2 Sundays ago, and they went 1 goal down, Marco Silva fist pumping, calling his players over, changing the formation, making in-game substitutions. There was a huge difference between the two.
Yeah, I mean, look, just quickly. First of all, I just want to refute a few things. First of all, Ange's options were Werner or no player at all. You have no way of knowing.
I don't get that at all, and that's ridiculous. If they're prepared to stump up £160,000 a week, if the money's there and they've told you the money's there, they're not going to say it's either one or another. That's not how it works. That's ridiculous.
Can you imagine, right? Ange going to leave and go, do you know what? I need a winger. Yeah, and they go, right, we need to loan someone. All right, this is all hypothetical nonsense, right? We can do it, but we need to loan someone. Cool. The only loan you're allowed is Werner. Why? Like, I need people like this to make sense for me how they've come to this conclusion, because when people say things like this as a definitive and you don't know, it makes it silly, because this signing was done in May. If anyone remembers, this signing was done at the end of May. So you're telling me the Spurs scouting team, the Spurs hierarchy said the only player we're willing and that we've looked at is Timo Werner on 165 grand a week. I fail to believe this, Chris, in any way, shape, or form. Sorry.
I put that into the nonsense category.
Me too. Sorry, mate. I think, again, I know we don't like Levy. I know we want Levy out, but I think a lot of the narratives that are being spun are now getting silly. And Chris, let me give you another one, right? Where the narrative is silly is people are going, they're all Levy signings. First and foremost, Daniel Levy doesn't know the market of football, right? Daniel Levy's a very busy businessman that doesn't have a black book of every young footballer across the world. But Daniel Levy did something very strange in the summer. When people are saying this is what he wanted, when have you ever seen Daniel Levy want to pay between 25 and 40 million for an 18-year-old from the Championship? Right? That, Chris, does not scream Daniel Levy to me. That does not scream Daniel Levy.
Well, when was it? Was it under the Mourinho period when he was crying out for a centre-half and Levy showed his true colour when we went and signed Joe Rodden from Swansea for, what was it, 15 million or something? So, again, why would he almost triple that investment by going and signing an 18-year-old 40 million? Makes no sense at all.
It doesn't make sense. What I think we're getting at, Chris, I think we're getting to the point now where the Levy-Ange debate sort of, for me, doesn't need to happen. Two things can exist at the same time, right? Two things can exist at the same time. Not everything needs to be laid at one person's door. Now, we all don't like Daniel Levy. We don't like the way he's run this club. But I fail to believe in any way, shape, or form that Daniel Levy's gone, I tell you what, there's a bloke out in South Korea. One of my networkers told me, you've got to get him. Odegaard from Burnley. That's your guy. Daniel Levy doesn't know all this.
Look, we're not Levy fans, but I will acknowledge that Daniel Levy's a tremendous businessman. And if I was a shareholder or investing in the club, I think he's doing a good job. But football aside, he doesn't know football. equally, the most worrying thing for me is those people we've brought in, your Scott Munns, your Johan Langs. Do they know any better than any of us two? Because at the moment, I'm not seeing any evidence whatsoever to suggest they do. The whole footballing operations, we've got crap coaches. We've got a bloke who lasted for 6 months as a Hibs manager. We got a bloke who played central midfield for Crystal Palace in Australia, hardly from a pedigree of coaching. We've got a bloke, Rob Birch, who was our ex-goalkeeper on our books as a youth team member some years ago. So you peel away the onion skin. You've got Ange, who doesn't do anything on the training pitch Monday to Friday, putting his faith in a really poor, inexperienced, and quality deprived set of coaches. So, but who does he answer into? What's his responsibility to Lang? What's Lang's reporting line to Munn? What's Munn there to do? Because somewhere it's not working. And that's why I'm saying if an investor comes in, we get rid of everybody, we start again. So there's two unique things. Daniel Levy doesn't know football. He doesn't look at scouting apps. He doesn't sit there like we were last night watching Leeds against Middlesbrough. He's too busy looking at spreadsheets and looking at share returns and looking at how he can pump more money at the club.
Listen, I truly believe when you get a deal like, oh, we're going to buy Bergvall for what was he, like 12 million euros? Like 8 million.
8.6 was a year.
Right. That for me is something that is put in front of Levy, and Levy goes, I like that, because if this kid does end up being good, we can sell him for 50, 60 million in 3 years.
But again, our fan base got completely carried away with that, and they said, "Oh, he turned down Barcelona to join Tottenham. He was destined for Barcelona." Yeah, you or I could sign for Barcelona, but they are such a massive club that you could find yourself playing in one of their lesser leagues that they deployed players to. And we got carried away. We thought we'd sound this generational talent. That's that word. Who had scored a few goals in Swedish football. Swedish football's not great, guys and girls.
Well,
but again, we get carried away in the notion that we've got a bloke who's rejected Barcelona, and he probably rejected them because he realised he was going to get nowhere near the first team with them, but could see opportunities at Tottenham as we've got nobody.
I watch Barcelona every week, and the youth players coming. Like Barcelona this year, I think must have played something like 17 or 18 different kids out of La Masia, right? Yeah. And they are all better than Bergvall, right? So I feel like we do get carried away very easily. Oh, he turned them down for us. Yeah, because he's not going to get anywhere near a Barcelona first team.
Same as Dragusin. Was he ever go walk into the Bayern Munich team when you look at the centre backs they've got available to deploy? No, look, of course he wasn't.
Agreed. I mean, look, let's look. Look, and by the way, when I say these things, I keep getting called a fraud and a traitor as though I'm sticking up for Levy. I'm not. But what I can't do is I can't have half the fan base have a go at me in the summer, telling me how great the window was, telling me that this plan is great, Project Youth, all of the kids coming in amazing players. Then all of a sudden, it's Levy's fault. Well, yes, I know it's Levy's fault, the bigger picture of the club. But this manager's got enough there, Chris. I don't care what we say. This manager's got enough players there that we should not be that easy. We've had 140 shots, Chris, on our goal in 7 games. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but doesn't that work out to roughly 20 shots a game?
Yeah.
Right?
And the reason for your feedback that you alluded to earlier is people are afraid of fact and they're afraid of honesty. And if you say it as you see it and you call it out for what it is, we live in a time where all these woke to the left pansies don't like it and they come back at you. We're trying to undermine you and accuse you of being X, Y, and Z. Just see it for what it is and don't be afraid. Do not be critical, but hold honest conversation about what we're seeing.
Yeah, look, I get that. Look, one of the things I'm seeing around the fan base, and I get hundreds of messages a day on my YouTube comments, Chris. Some of them I post in the WhatsApp group.
I would do the same thing week in, week out, Savva, and I just press the delete button.
Well, no, but some of them are funny. When I get messages that say things like "true fans just get behind the club," and I always sit there and I think, a true fan doesn't want his club going like that. He or she. I'm a true fan. I don't want my club going down this project, if we're going to call it that, which is clearly failing. It is, if this was a business, Chris, right? And you had a project manager and a program manager that had this project, and we said it's a I don't know where this is made up from, but 5-year project. Project and program managers get people together at different stages of the project, don't they? And go, right, where are we at? Where are we on our roadmap? And at the moment, Spurs on their roadmap haven't moved from A to B, let alone A to Z. We have not, Chris, you said it. We have not got better since that first defeat against Chelsea. And the points per game is getting worse and worse as his tenure goes on. Nothing's improving.
If this was a private sector organisation, the CEO and his management team downwards would have been replaced by now, because it's all about protecting revenues. It's about protecting brand reputation, and the game by game, our chances of getting anywhere near European football is dissolving. And yeah, Paulinho was absolutely useless. So nobody would stick with what we're sticking with, because it's not going to pay any dividends, and it's going to get a lot worse before it gets any better.
No, absolutely. And by the way, here's one of my favorites. Here, this guy is one of my favorites. Big up Proximo. How you doing? He said, your facts and honesty is okay. It's the fact that you don't accept other fans' honesty and facts. Proximo, I'm all for hearing facts. I have a debate show every week where I say, come on, give me the facts that counter my facts. And no one ever does. Proximo, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you a question here, right? And you're never rude to me, so big up to you. And we're all allowed opposing opinions. Give me 3 facts in your next message. No bumble, no messing about. Give me 1, 2, 3 facts of how Spurs have got better under Ange. I will wait. 3 facts that tell me we're better under Ange. I bet you the next message you put into my chat will not tell me 1, 2, 3. I bet you give me an excuse about feelings or something. Let's see. Proximo, the challenge is laid down. I've got about 50 facts that show we're going backwards. I'm asking you for 3 that show me we're going forward. I bet you can't find 1. Chris, sorry if that was too harsh, but this is when people use the terms honesty and facts. Honesty isn't, oh, I think I'm a better fan than you because I believe more in the manager. That's fine. At the end of the day, whether I like him, you like him, I hate him, you hate him, anywhere emotion in between, the results and the evidence trumps everybody's feelings. The results and the evidence tell you that factually,
when you won 1 game in your last 7, it says that you've not got a capable man steering the ship.
Do you know what? Sometimes there are circumstances, like, let's be fair, Man City have won 1 in about 8, but Pep Guardiola's Pep Guardiola, right? Unfortunately, we've been like this for a year. Actually, Chris, we've been like this since...
We've bimbled through since the departure of Poch. It's just been manager after manager. The product's been decreasing, and we've lost the ability to win football games.
We have, but this manager's got better players than his predecessors. This is what's annoying me. Everybody wanted to tell me that Romero, Van der Ven, Porro and Udogie, oh my God, the best fullbacks in the league, the best centre-backs, we can't defend. Why? It's the manager's tactics. But we'll wait and see what Proximo comes up with. I'm looking forward to his 3 things. Meze Philanthropy. Savva, I've been watching all your live shows since the loss of Chelsea. It's the same whinging. Get some new content. What would you like me to talk about? Here we go. Look, here we go. Do you want to see Proximo's 3 things, Chris? This is brilliant. They're so predictable, the Ange fans. They're so predictable. Here we go. 1, the attack is not dependent on Harry Kane. I mean, so we're using
we sold him, which Ange had no say about anyway, and we are using what's available to us because, surprise, surprise, Kane's disappeared and is no longer part of the picture.
It's madness. It's absolutely madness. And his second one, we score more goals, right?
And
you noticed none of this is actually about where we are in the league, the results that are coming, the defeats. None of this is actually like, okay, we score more goals. I'd rather, Chris, if I said to you, Chris, we're going to score 80 goals this season and finish 11th, or we're going to score 60 goals but concede less and finish top 4. Which one you taking?
The obvious one.
Right. This is what I don't get. I think there's a lot of people that play Football Manager that think this. Listen, and again, Ethan, we're going to move on to something now, but Ethan, you're spot on. This fan base really needs to stop talking about Harry Kane. He's not been a Tottenham player for 18 months. It's getting silly now. By the way, I've never read anything so bad in my life, Alf. Pep Guardiola has never built a team. Never rebuilt a team. Both Barca and Bayern won a league title the immediate season after Pep left. Both won trebles after he left to Alf, this is the worst thing I think I've ever read. Pep Guardiola picked up Barcelona. They were not the Barcelona we knew that won everything. Go and do some research, Alf. This is ridiculous, right? Why did Barca and Bayern win league titles immediately after Pep left? Because of what he built them, right? Just some facts, not trying to say anything. This is... Right, Chris, you know the Man City team that won the league last year? Is that the same Man City team that won the league the first time under Pep?
No.
What are we... I can't... I don't know how to debate ignorance. I don't know what to do with a comment like this. This is where we're at as football fans. He's never rebuilt a team. Wow. Just wow. Wow. Rebuilding a team equals building a team from scratch. Guardiola last season was horrendous. We won that on pure... Chris, help me. Bring me back to that place you bring me to, because this
so
sort of thing is embarrassing.
I think the original question was what is needed in January, and I think rather than us dig a deep hole, because we could spend the rest of today putting this statement to bed, we should move to that place and time.
We've got to. Alf, by the way, I think is a Man City fan. I'm just going to call this out just quickly and we're going to move on, Chris. You do not deserve league titles. You do not deserve success. Guardiola last season was horrendous. Let this statement...
Try being a Spurs fan, buddy. Then you'll know what horrendous looks like.
Wow. Just wow, Alf. Alf wins worst comment of the year award. What? Wow. Yeah, Swings God, Savva, you've been found out, mate. How much do you spend on rent? A numpty? Oh, mate, it is like I've planted people in the chat, isn't it, to say ridiculous things. And kudos, you are absolutely right. Just quickly, we'll move on, but I had a Man City fan call into me the other week, Chris, on my debate show and said, I've been saying it for 3 years, how bad we are defensively at Man City. Pep's not changed it. And I was like, hang on. In the last 3 years, you've won the title every year. You've won the Champions League, the FA Cup, the League Cup, like the World Club Cup, the Super Cup. But yeah, I've been saying it. Pep needs to go. What are we doing? What are we doing? Oh my gosh, I need a break. Chris, sorry, mate, this is ridiculous. What do Spurs need in January? What do Spurs need in January and moving into the summer to bring back some sort of balance to Tottenham Hotspur?
A complete rebuild, but that's not the question you asked. So what do we need immediately? We clearly need another goalkeeper because without Vicario in play, Forster's done all right with respect to him. He's been decent in the last few games, but if anything happens to him now, we're in all sorts of mess, aren't we? We're trusting those kids that have never previously been trusted and have just been there as homegrown options in the squad.
Yeah, I mean, look, the worrying thing is, Chris, yesterday we started seeing reports from I can't actually remember who it was now, saying that Tottenham's priority in the summer is the centre forward. And then last night we were hearing that Tottenham wanted in the summer to buy 3 transfers. 2 on the list are Angel Gomez, the England international, and also Jonathan David.
Yeah.
Chris, at this stage, I'm not saying our attackers are amazing, but at this stage, if I was to say to you, what do Spurs need? Are centre forwards and playmakers really what we need at this stage?
No, we need spine through the team. So we need a genuine defensive central midfielder. Somebody who can put his foot on the ball, can protect the back four. We need another centre back because we're trying to go around it with half-hearted options, and we need another goalkeeper. So
yeah,
the last of my asks at the moment would be a centre forward, where there's priorities elsewhere in the squad at the moment.
I mean, it just feels a bit crazy, isn't it? Like I looked at the comments saying, let's see if I can find who that comment was from. It was actually I'm pretty sure it was a quite well respected agent. It said about, I can't find it now. It's always the way, isn't it? I can't find it. But it was saying that Spurs are interested in Angel Gomez as well. Angel Gomez, another, not a bad player, Angel Gomez. But again, I look at him, 4 foot nothing. Is it what we need? Don't we need some men in that midfield and defense, Chris, that actually make us, like when the players are lining up in the tunnel, I always think, would you look over at Spurs' midfield and centre backs and go, this is going to be a tough game? I think I'd look over and go, oh, this looks nice. This looks quite nice. So these rumours for me don't really do anything for me again.
No, I completely agree. Not that I'm saying this is the type of player I would want to see at Spurs, but when you look at the likes of a James Tarkowski, the centre-back who plays at Everton, or a Lewis Dunk type, I want players who can defend, are men on the pitch, have some presence and character, and call out others when it's not going to plan. And at the moment, you don't see that on our side.
Yeah, no, it's madness. A lot of people saying about the goalkeeper point you made there, Chris. Look, the strange thing is, Fraser Forster has been our best player.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I want him here.
No.
That shows how bad we've been, that Fraser Forster has been our best player for the last 4 or 5 games. But he has said, we're not buying a keeper. We don't want to buy another goalkeeper, Chris. Is this just
that makes no sense at all, isn't it? It's like this notion that we've heard for months and months and months about our reluctance to buy a centre-back because we didn't want to block the route to the first team for Vucevic, the Croatian young lad who's on loan at one of the Belgian clubs alongside Devine. You think it's not about the future, it's about the now. It's about what's going to get us over the finish line. And if you're a good player, you don't care about anybody else in front of you who plays the same position because you'll pass them by. And that's the nonsense that is Tottenham.
I mean, this is the crazy thing, Chris. And look, I'm gonna a really good point here from the swing squad, and this point I'm about to bring up shows to me just how bad the tactics are, because we're all crying out for a number 6 that apparently he doesn't want. But they make a great point. So in January, I know people will mention a holding midfielder, but would Rodri prevent a 60-yard switch ball to a vacant wing back area? I'll tell you what. We need a number 6, but absolutely spot on. These tactics, as I said, you could put Rodri in our number 6, but we play so wide open that Rodri can't be in 3 positions at once. And, that's kind of what we're asking Basuma to do at the moment. We want him centre mid. We want him right back. We want him left back. Absolutely spot on this comment, Chris, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I sat there at the Roma game, and the amount of times Roma reversed the balls into either of the fullback channels, they worked us out very quickly, and they got us time and time again.
Yeah, it's absolutely mad. Again, BSD29 said exactly, it doesn't matter who the midfield is. They can't cover that much space, let alone for 90 minutes. The tactics are all wrong. Why is it that some people are not seeing how bad the tactics are, Chris? Is it because of the notion that we play attacking football? Is that why we're kind of foregoing common sense? Because let me just tag one bit on the end here, Chris. If I was to present all the facts and stats about how we play and how open we are to you and say, that is how Aston Villa play football. That is how Arsenal play. This is their results. We'd laugh our heads off at how bad they are, wouldn't we?
Yep. Some people, unfortunately, are blind to the truth. Some people become supporters of a person as opposed to the club. And no one name on the back of the shirt will ever be bigger than the badge on the front of it. And sometimes you've got to step away and critically analyse and say, it's not working, we're not doing it right, and we've got to go again. But it's equally important to analyse yourself, to provide feedback, and to better yourself as a person and as a human being. And in footballing terms, it's increasing your coaching capability. And we're not doing that.
No, look, what I get quite a lot. What I get quite a lot is people saying, "Oh, these fans are armchair fans, armchair managers." No, I love that, Chris, because isn't everyone in the world other than the actual manager armchair managers, right? Every football fan is an armchair manager, if you will, right?
Of course we are.
But
every single one of us, yeah.
But it doesn't need people to have coaching badges and be a manager to see just how wide open Tottenham are. And this isn't sustainable, Chris. People keep telling me, give them a few more windows, but I genuinely don't see. I keep asking people, Chris, if I'm signing Chris Beresford, Chris B, if I'm signing Chris B, if I'm signing Chris B and you play for Juventus, right? And I'm saying, mate, Chris, come and join this project. And you're going to go, okay, what's the project? Right, I want you to come and play in midfield. You're brilliant at box to box. Wouldn't you and your agent sit down, look at Spurs videos and go, sorry, you want me to play that midfield where I'm gung-ho, I'm tracking back for fun because we're never in. Wouldn't a player start to feel like that?
If you have any self-respect or value around yourself, you wouldn't come to Tottenham. Top players will not come to Tottenham because they can see it as regressing, slipping down the league. They can also see the recent history of a lack of success. And there are better options for players who want to achieve things. The top players want to win trophies. They want to win leagues. They want to be there in the forefront of the public view. For Tottenham, it's a place where you can come and earn better money than you were previously on. It's very comfortable. You've got access to spa facilities at the training ground, but we haven't got a winning mentality and there's no expectation of success. So until we change the DNA of the club, we're never going to move forward.
I completely agree with you. My mate Alf's come back and said, so you're telling me that after watching Man City go from mid-table team to winning titles with and without Pep, I don't deserve it because I'm pointing out that Pep isn't doing it right now. Alf, this is where I'm going to tie you up in your own words. Not once did you mention that Pep isn't doing it right now. What you said was Pep was, what was the word he used last year? Pep was atrocious or terrible or...
Yeah.
You didn't say right now. Right now, Man City are in a difficult position. But why I'm saying you don't deserve it is you've turned around and said that Pep doesn't know how to rebuild a team. And you said that Pep was terrible last year and you only won the league because of individual brilliance. If it's down to individual brilliance, why is it Pep's fault this year then? Do you know what I mean, Chris? If it's down to individual brilliance, why is it not this? Look, at the end of the day, sorry, Alf, at the end of the day, listen, I don't know how old you are, but I remember Man City being down in League One.
I remember Man City with Jonathan Mackin up front, Nicky Weaver in goal, Summerby in midfield. I remember them before they had the money and they were shit and they were proper rubbish in League One.
Yeah.
So it was a fairy tale like no other that the money came in and made Man City good. But people of my age will remember when there was nothing to boast about and nothing to write home about with City.
And the fact that they've gone from there to where they are now and their fan base is now saying these derogatory things about Pep, who's won them 6 league titles, a Champions League. And can someone in the chat tell me how many trophies Pep Guardiola's won at Manchester City, including World Club Cups, Super Cups? How many trophies has he won? And we got Man City fans saying he was rubbish last year. Yeah, you don't deserve anything, mate. Nah, you don't deserve anything. Not having it. Sorry.
Like Chelsea fans with long memory, remember what Chelsea were like before Harding arrived at the club. When Ken Bates was in charge, the Stamford Bridge was on the verge of collapse. It was in a right state. They had no money, no decent players. Then all of a sudden, Harding takes over. Poor guy passes away in a helicopter crash. And then the saviour Abramovich comes in, and they never look back from that point on. So people have to have a long memory, and you need to understand the history of your football club before making such absurd and crazy comments like that.
Yeah, thanks, Ash. Yeah, he did. He said horrendous. And look, he's doubled down on it. And he was horrendous. Oh, how dare you win the Premier League for the 4th time in a row, Pep Guardiola. You are horrendous. Get out our club. Listen, this is why football fans, for me, over the last decade, Chris, have completely lost their way, don't know their club, don't know their club's history. Because, do you know what? My mate's a Man City fan. I went to college with him. He moved from Manchester down to here when he was a kid, and now has moved back up there. And I remember we used to rip the piss out of him because of how bad Man City were. We used to rip the piss out of him because Man City went from Premier League to Championship to League One, and we were all going, "Oh my God, you're going down to the National League." And he'd, "No, we'll be back." But and now we've got fans that don't know those times saying things like Pep was horrendous. I just want to check something out. Sorry, I find this absolutely staggering. Pep Guardiola was horrendous last year. I just want to have a look at the Premier League table from last year. The Premier League table last year, which Man City won, 91 points, 96 goals. And if I'm not wrong, didn't Man City lose 3 games all season? I might be wrong on that bit, but didn't they lose 3 or 4 games all season? Please, Alf, feel free to come on and tell me why he was horrendous. We've lost 7 games by December, Chris. They're winning titles and calling their manager horrendous.
Levels to it, aren't there?
Unbelievable. Hang on. Proximo. I do love my people in my chat. I'm going to rip this apart as well. Maybe we as supporters are part of the problem. Maybe it's time to realize that we are a mid-table team, at least until Levy sells. Proximo, all summer, you told me, all summer you came into my chat, not once did I ever see you use the term mid-table. Not once did you talk to me about Daniel Levy. All summer you said to me, Ange is brilliant. He's going to prove me wrong. Ange does better in his second season. He upskills players. He loves the youth players, and we will be in a title race. We've gone from that to maybe it's us. Maybe it's us. Make your mind up. Yeah, they have players like Richard. Richard Dunn was a decent player for years. Anyway, Chris, yeah, look, it's interesting, isn't it? We're talking about what do we need. I feel like there's a real big disconnect between what we as the fans see that we need and what he as the manager sees that he needs for this project of his, this gung-ho style of play. Would that be fair?
Yeah, the issue is that Ange is only likely to sign players that suit his style of football. And when he is gone, and he will go, we're then asked, are these players suitable for the next manager coming through the door? So we know we need a goalkeeper. We know we need a centre midfielder. We need 2 proper wingers, because none of the wingers that we've got at the club are suitable to have the name winger above them. And again, when in the summer, we need to get rid of Yuri Carlson's because he's gash. He'll never get any better. And we need to go around assembling a proper squad. And that doesn't need to be ridiculous signings. It needs to be sensible signings that add quality and experience to the team now, for today, not tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. But sorry, I've got to. Sorry, I'm so caught up in this now. I'm so caught up in this now.
Just leave them for the debate Savva show.
I love it. I'm just going to show this and I'm going to move on. Look, have a look at this. This was hang on, I'm going to blow this up. This was the Premier League table from last year. Hopefully everyone can see that. Man City lost 3 games in 38, conceded 28 goals, 96 points.
Some people, I guess, are never happy, are they?
That's horrendous. Apparently, oh my God, I don't know what to say. They finished how many
I'll give you a
clearers?
clue. Give you a clue. Wow.
Wow, just wow. And Pep has won 18 trophies at Man City. 18.
So
I'll tell you what, do you know what I wished, Chris? Instead of him signing a new contract, I wished he'd walked away and Man City fans had got another manager in. And then in a couple of years' time, they would be seeing, oh, hang on.
well,
How
if he's
good
a
was
man of
Pep?
it, if he's a man of his word, and the hearing against Man City's concluded now, and the findings are expected to be out within a month or so. If they have been found guilty of those charges, he always said he would walk away from the club. Well, if they are, and he does, it will allow us to see how City respond from that point onwards. And if that next manager manages to create and continue the clear legacy that Pep has made at that club.
Wow, Alf. I mean, if you really want to come on at the end of the show, I'll let you on. But I mean, listen, I'm almost intrigued to see how you're going to debate that 3 defeats from 38 games and 91 points winning the title is called horrendous. I'm intrigued. Chris, the very worrying thing for me is if we give Ange more money, first of all, I don't think anything is really going to happen in January.
No.
If we give Ange more money in the summer, all the people that are saying, well, it's Levy's buys, that will then still be their excuse next year if it doesn't work, right?
What's the point of having Scott Munn in play as head of football operations? And what's the point of having Johan Lang as director of football? If Danny Boy's still calling all the shots himself, it completely undermines his management structure.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, absolutely. I genuinely don't know. So we're everyone who was waxing lyrical, Chris, in the summer about a youth project. They weren't they? Do you remember? People were coming onto my debate show and saying, "Savva, get with it. Youth project. This is what Ange does. If you knew Ange, this constant. Everybody apparently knows Ange. No one's been saying this to me for years, but now apparently everyone knows Ange." What those people are saying is now, right, ditch the youth project, and now we need to sign senior players. If we go and buy senior players now, Chris, what does that actually mean then that we did this summer that was the youth project? Like, again, what is the narrative at Tottenham Hotspur? What is the truth? What are we doing?
I don't think any of us will know the answer to that question. We can all speculate looking from the outside in, and we hear murmurings from people supposedly linked to the club. But what is the plan? Is there a plan in place at all? What are we trying to achieve? Where do we want to go? These are all questions that somebody needs to come out and answer, but never will.
Yeah, and look, lots of people saying, look, one of the reasons they don't want Ange to go at the moment is it would mean Mason back in charge again. I'll be brutally honest. If you said to me now, you've got between now and the end of the season with Mason or Ange,
I'd take
Chris,
Mason. Yeah,
call me crazy. I'm taking Ryan Mason. I think this is the worst tactical manager I've ever seen at Tottenham. Tactically, by the way, tactically.
The longer you continue and persist with this guy, the further down the league we go plummet. And you can see what's going to happen when we finish 14th. Guess what? No European football next season, so our budget's reduced in the summer. The excuses are already coming to fruition. So sometimes you've got to say, if you're in a toxic, poisonous relationship, do you stay with your partner? No, you admit it's not working and you leave. And that's no different to the relationship between a football club and its coach.
I tell you what, a lot of people have actually said that Spurs at the moment, it's like that relationship that you know you shouldn't be in, but you just can't leave. And I think the difficulty for me is, and people will say, well, I've got an agenda against the manager. My agenda against the manager, Chris, is that I think he's absolutely shit. That's my agenda against him. It's not nationality.
He's out of his depth. He's out of his depth. He shows a clear reluctance to change, and he's very, very stubborn and arrogant. And there's no place for that in modern football. Look at the young coaches coming through, specifically the German guy at Brighton. or when
Hurts
not
me.
taking this back to a conversation that I'd rather we didn't go back to, but when Pep took time out of football, he went to America and he studied American football, and he went on planes to South America to understand different coaching techniques, brought
Yeah.
that back, and each project he's undertaken, he's done something differently. But could you imagine telling Ange to try something? No, mate, it's just not who we are. It's my way or no way at all. And what's
This
plan
is
B?
it.
Well, it's plan A, just a little bit quicker.
Yeah. I'll ask you then, do you see him? Do you see him lasting the season?
I think the next game, 4 games, are really, really important to him, because I would not expect Tottenham to sack him, but I almost undermine myself by saying that he's only going to get away with poor results for so long, and then somebody has to make a decision, because it's all about brand and reputation. And whilst a desire for investment is hanging over us, who wants to invest in a failing brand?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is the key thing for me, because as much as I don't want him at the club, Chris, I've said to you and everyone in that WhatsApp group and everyone, I say it live, don't I, on screen every day, I can't see him going. And this is a real concern for me, because when we talk about turning things around, I'm not talking about, oh, we beat Rangers and Southampton and then suddenly we go, oh, we're back on track. I'm talking about, can you see this manager sustainably through the next 10, 15 Premier League games having us where we should be, in and around that 4th, 5th spot? Can you
That fourth,
sustainably
that,
see him doing that?
that 4th and 5th spot are just a dream. We'll never achieve that, never, this season. But he's not the man to take this club forward. It sounds like rinse and repeat with our conversations. We've heard this all time and time before, and we just need to do what's in the best interests of a club. We're the 8th richest club in world football. We can afford to get rid of this guy. We can afford to get rid of all of his coaching network. We've got to think for once about the long-term sustainability and future of the football club, which so far we've been neglecting.
No, absolutely. No, Jimmy, no, not everyone, but there was a huge portion. A lot of abuse came my way, a lot of hate, a lot of people. As I keep showing people, when I put this up on screen, these are my predictions for Spurs in the summer. When I put Spurs up as 7th and below Chelsea and Villa, people went mad at me. They're rubbish. What have they done? Aston Villa have got rid of DRB. They've had to sell players. They've had a terrible window. Aston Villa have just went on a run of not winning for 8 games and are still above us. Let that sink in. Aston Villa had their first ever dip under Unai Emery. I mean, I don't mean 1 or 2 games, like a proper dip for 6, 7 games, and are still above us, whilst being 2nd or 3rd, whatever they are, in the Champions League group, right? That's their 3rd in the Champions League group, right? And still above us. And I was told, oh, they're crap. We're better than them. Chelsea, all of their players are crap. We're better than them. No, it looks like I'm going to be wrong on Man United. Now they've had all the change and everything, but this is what we got, Jimmy. This is what we got. Where are we? Kim from Australia said, worst. Come on, Savva. I'm sorry. You're in a bubble. Can't see the small to big changes Ange's brought in. Jim, I said the worst tactical manager. There have been poor managers, but also they had poor squads. So, for example, when Christian Gross was here, the squad was crap. I didn't expect anything. He was crap. The squad was crap. This squad is not crap. I don't care what anyone says. It's not going to win leagues, but it's not crap. Please let me know, what are the small to big changes? Because I grew up, Chris, I don't know about you, that results matter, the number of wins matter, and the number of defeats matter. And at the moment, Chris, results are bad, wins are down, defeats are up. So what changes are these people alluding to?
I've always been brought up, rightly or wrongly, in the belief that it's all about winning. Nobody remembers 2nd place. And in the final of a 100-meter sprint, you only remember the gold medalist, not who walked away with silver or bronze. And it's the same about football. Yes, it's about entertainment. Yes, it's about playing nice stuff. But we want to be winners. We've got this state of the art. Everybody speaks about it, stadium, but our trophy cabinet's been empty since we occupied that stadium on the first day, and it's remained empty ever since. And it's all about doing everything within your power to have the best players, to have the best manager, and it's all about winning. Everything is about success.
Yeah. I agree. Atheist Theory said Mason O'Brien. I said till the end of the season, by the way, not long term. By the way, Mason's win percentage as manager is better than Ange's, just putting it out there. And I love this last sentence. If small margins went different in a different way, if small margins during games went into his favor, things would be different. Chris, couldn't every human being in life say that about everything?
Yeah, if your auntie had a penis, she'd be your uncle, wouldn't she?
Right. Do you know what I mean? Couldn't the Southampton manager, who's rock bottom right now, say, "Oh, but you know, if a few things had gone in our favour, we'd be top 5." Like it. At the end of the day, when something's happening over and over again, it stops becoming about the margins and it starts to become the norm. Is how I look at it. Mafuza said, if we are sat 10th in a couple of months, it's going to get toxic and Levy will get rid of him. Chris, normally what we've seen Levy do is he tends to get rid of managers when the points gap to Champions League football becomes insurmountable. Is that the word?
Yeah, but Levy's also very consistent in that he only takes action when the heat's applied to him. And that's not turning the volume up in the stadium to drown out the boos. When the spotlight of attention is, the focus is on him and it's going wrong, he will quickly react.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Drew has said Ross Barkley in the Spurs midfield would have been great, but we buy kids who aren't even good enough to make a start. Drew said in the summer, on a free transfer, not even to play every game, on a free transfer, ex-England international, been around the block, right, on a free transfer for a team in Europe, this signing made absolute sense for anybody in Europe. Aston Villa went and done it, and he's been playing in the Champions League. Spurs, we went for Bergvall and Gray. I would have loved Ross Barkley as part of our squad. I'm not saying a main player, but if on a Thursday night you're saying, "Oh, who's coming into midfield?" Right, Bergvall or Ross Barkley?
Ross Barkley starts week in, week out. He's a player who's got a pass in his locker. He can shield the ball. He's got a good engine. Look at the games he played for Luton last year where he was a regular starter. And he's also got big match experience. He's been around the block. It's for what he can bring in the short term is similar to when we re-signed Mickey Hazard in the early 2000s, where he came back in and just provided a bit of guile and a bit of experience and craft to help at the time. And that's exactly what he would have done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, Phil P, big up Phil P. Love you, man. I said, if my auntie had wheels, she'd be a bike. If I won the lottery, yeah, do you know what I mean? Say, I could go downstairs and say to my wife, listen, I know we've got to pay that big bill next year, but if I win the lottery, don't worry about it. I think there's too many ifs, buts, and maybes and not enough fact, Chris. This is the thing for me. I keep hearing, but we should have beaten Leicester. We should have beaten Arsenal. We should have beaten Newcastle. But we didn't. We didn't. And now the narrative is, well, we're better than last year because last year we lost 4-1 to Chelsea. This year we lost 4-3. I mean, is that the narrative that we're better?
Well, all of our fan base make a positive out of a nonsense. And whenever it goes wrong, which it does regularly, there's always some positive to come out of it, as opposed to just holding your hands up and saying we're not very good. And a loss is a loss. You can't sugarcoat it any other way.
Absolutely. Jim, I love you, dude. I really do. Small changes, he said. Young kids being recruited to create a core of players in the coming years. Jim, I don't know how long you supported Spurs, and Chris, I know will back me up on this. For the 30, 40 years I've been watching Spurs, supporting Spurs, we've always brought in a young core of kids for the future. Yeah. This isn't new. This isn't something that Ange has done. And big changes, moving on Sanchez died. So his changes for you are nothing about what actually happens on the pitch. It's about young kids coming in and not playing and old players moving on and not playing. So nothing to do with the actual football, the results. We do celebrate some funny things, Chris, as fans nowadays. We really do. Really.
we celebrate mediocrity. We're so starved of success that the smallest wins a win for us, and we go on about it until the cows come home. When was the last time we were invested in going to a trophy parade past the stadium or acknowledging victory in a European game? We haven't, and we don't. But we are so soft as a fan base that people say it how they don't want to hear it. Everybody gets easily offended and rubs their eyes and has tears. Just accept it. We're not going further forward under this guy. We're not a work in progress. We are just surviving, and that's not good enough.
No, I agree. By the way, Nick, listen, I've got nothing against anyone being Ange. I don't know who Jim is. I don't know. Hello, Jim, whoever you are. But totally agree with Jim. Is that your workmate or something? Or you? Totally agree with Jim and Jin all the way. Nick, I'm all for it. Anyone can have this opinion, right, Chris? And Jin, I'm not telling people what to think. Nick, the question I'm asking is why? What has to happen, Nick, for people to turn around and go, Anjin isn't actually working? What's the cut-off for you, Nick, as a football fan that makes you say, yeah, this is getting worse? Because this manager has taken us further backwards every single month, factually, points per game, win ratios, everything. And yet we're still going, Anjin, cool, but why? But why? It can't just be because, I don't want to sack another manager. Why? Chloe has said, I think Ange will be sacked once the Champions League is mathematically impossible to reach and we're out of all the cups.
We're not in the mix for the Champions League at all. Full stop.
Yeah. Big up to Ash, my man. How you doing, bro? It said, in moving on all those players, we lost all our experience. Ash, as I said, I've got nothing wrong with buying Odeberg, Graham Bergvall. I've got nothing against it. But three senior pros should have been bought at the same time.
And we were deaf to the ears of some of those that were giving us clues along the way. Like throughout the summer, Mido, time and time again, was going on about Omar Mamouche. Nobody at the club listened to what he was telling us. And had we done so, there was a potentially left-sided winger stroke forward who would have increased the quality of this team overnight in an instant. Instead, we go and sign Timo Werner on loan, who was probably on considerably more wages than the other guy.
Yeah. Where are we? Jun has said, so I liked in my shows, Chris, I like to read out comments, good and bad, otherwise we wouldn't be here without people who watch YouTube channels. Recent age fans have normalized losing and glorified playing. We hounded out Ramos and Graham for playing crap football. Where are the standards? Look, I think it's difficult, right? Because look, as much as I wasn't a fan of Conte, for example, if Conte joins my club, let's say, let me say if I support, I'm not going to use Arsenal as an example. That would be terrible. If I support Chelsea, right? For example, if I support Chelsea, if I support Liverpool and Antonio Conte is brought in as manager and I turn around and go, I can't stand this guy's style. What I can also, on the other hand, do, Chris, is say, but I know he's going to be backed and I know he's a winner. The problem with Spurs bringing in Antonio Conte was he was never going to be backed with what Antonio Conte is used to. So when we say, Conte, we tried a proven winner, you can't just get the proven winner. If you don't get the proven players, the proven winner actually means nothing. Is that fair, Chris? Like you've got to.
He comes from a background of well-run football clubs where he gets the resources that he wants. He's got the quality coaches in the background, and the club's always heading in the right direction. We bring in the skilled tradesmen, yet don't provide the tradesmen with the tools to do the job.
Big up Atheist Theory has said, how do you see Romero literally confronting the top board for Ange's sake? Haven't seen this before anywhere. This shows players strongly trust in Ange.
No, it shows a player that we said at the outset is engineering his own move from the club. He doesn't want to be there. If you play it two ways, one is you say if Ange gets sacked, I'm off, and the other is you piss the board off sufficiently that they want to get rid of you. Then one way or another, you won't be here come the beginning of next season.
Yeah, Yeah. Listen, whoever's sorry, it was where were we? It was Atheist, wasn't it? Listen, Atheist Fury, I'm all for that, but you know what? It's all well and good Romero coming out and saying this and saying he trusts in Ange. Romero's been horrible to watch this season. Surely show it on the pitch that you trust in Ange. Show it on the pitch. I agree with Chris. This is Romero, who's got, how long has he got left on his contract?
18 months, I think. Yeah.
18 months. This is a man for me that is saying, right, let's move him. I think this is a guy thinking, I'm going to move on.
I want to go somewhere where I'm going to win things, and I want to play with proper players, not just children. And he's got an agent whispering in his ear saying, tell you what, this is how we'll get rid of you. And it doesn't take a genius to work out how to get out of that football club.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. By the way, these managers have come in and all have agreed to what Levy wanted. So I have zero respect or sympathy for them. All yes men and just wanted the salary offered. Mamba, but the thing is, again, we're doing that thing where we're pretending we know what's been said, right? Now, with Conte, let's look at Conte and Jose, for example. Conte signed an 18-month contract. I said the day he signed, the clue is in the length of the contract. If he truly believed he was going to be backed and people were going, let Conte build, he wouldn't be here on an 18-month. Is that fair, Chris? Like, you don't sign on an 18-month.
No, it allows you to look at, it's a bi-directional agreement, allows one party to look at the other and the other to look at the other party. And it gave him the security that it was more than 12 months. But if we weren't going to back him and if we weren't going to deliver, goodbye, God bless, I'm out of here. Mm-hmm. So it never built any confidence that it wasn't a 3 or 4 year deal.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And some people saying Ange should have been out the day he re-signed Werner. Listen, Nick Vella said, as a Celtic fan, he completely changed how he played. The signings were class, totally respect the different views.
Disrespecting Celtic as a football club, but there is a massive difference in the standard between the Scottish Premier League and the Premiership in England. A massive one.
Yeah, look, I think, Nick, the key thing here is, for me, Celtic are winning everything still under Brendan Rodgers and look better in Europe under Brendan Rodgers than they do under Ange. My problem with this isn't, listen, Nick, big up to you. By the way, I'm not out here, Nick, to change anybody's mind. I'm just giving my opinion because I am sure enough in my opinion. I am pretty sure I'm going to be spot on with this manager like I was with the last couple of managers. My problem is the word trust keeps coming into it. Trust the small tweaks. I don't see any tweaks. Nick, if anything, there are zero tweaks from this manager. And for me as a fan to trust the process, to trust him, I need to see that he can adapt. And at the moment, he's coming out and saying, why would I change? Why would we change the way we play after winning one game in 7? Why would we change the way we play? It's sorry, not for me, Chris. I can't. The excuses for the manager now are running a little bit thin. Just saying.
100%. Yeah.
But Mamba said Spurs, a bit like West Ham, think they have a way of playing. I've not enjoyed Ange ball at all. Mamba, I agree with you. I think the Spurs way isn't the way, if we're going to call it that, isn't what we're seeing under Ange. And do you know what? It's Kuva always comes on and says, Kuva, Nick, Chris, Kuva always comes on and says, you know what? When you look at that team throughout the 80s, etc., when you add the skill of Hoddle, Waddle, when you add Hazard, you had these players. You also had people in midfield and defence that were men that made it difficult for us to be beaten. The likes of Stevie Perriman, Gary Mabbutt. Yeah, like, even Pratt, Johnny Pratt. I think these people forget that. Yes, we've had some good teams and good to watch, but we weren't gung-ho. There's a huge difference. Yeah. Chris, I know you've got a hard stop. So anything else you would like to say? I won't be able to do any streaming with you now for 10 days, but anything else you would like to stay? Just quickly, Mink said, Chris, love you as a guest. I remember you very well from when you was on Bullseye and you took the gamble on the Star Prize. You were great that day. Superb. Is this you, Chris?
It goes completely over my head, I'm afraid. No idea what that's about.
What a random comment. What a random. I love the internet. It is full of comments. Chris, thank you very much, buddy. I think everybody loves having you in the chat.
I'm just going to throw 3 names at you because we were all about what we wanted in January, but we got waylaid and sidetracked. So I think we need the new keeper. I would suggest James Trafford might not be a bad option there, playing at Burnley, getting regular football, English, one for the future. And then moving forward, I like the look of Malik Tillman and Bakayoko, both at PSV. And I think both could be gettable. And I think both would instantly add a little bit of quality and goal to that side.
I like Tillman. Do you know what I think, Chris? There are so many players that I watch across European football,
which aren't going to cost you the world, but would come in, add quality, and would instantly lift us as a team.
Right. And I think when a lot of fans talk, they go, oh, but we can't afford so-and-so at 70, 80 million. You don't have to if you scout properly.
And our history of signing big players, you think about the money for Solanke, Richarlison, Ndombele, Lo Celso. Can I throw Sessegnon in there? We've spent badly. We don't. It's not a case of we don't spend. We do spend, but we waste our money on rubbish. We've got to be a lot smarter in our approach, and we've also almost got to use Brighton as the envy. Look at what they've achieved and the quality they've brought in. So the quality's out there. Our whole scouting network's got to prove, and I think we need 2 or 3 players to help us get past the end of the season, and they would be my suggestions.
Yeah, sorry, Perchie's just let me know that Megson was saying horrible things to him yesterday in his chat, so we will get rid of that. Yeah, listen, look, the last thing I'd say, Chris, is this is a really interesting comment here from Lynn, and said, and I agree, Brendan Rodgers would have been slaughtered if Levy wanted to sign him, and he has experience in the Premier League, and bear in mind it was Rodgers who Ange took over from. I think this is really interesting because at the time that we signed, that we bought in Ange, Chris, do you remember in our WhatsApp group, there was the massive debate? Do you remember?
Yeah. I know Pete's a massive Brendan Rodgers fan, and he would love to see Brendan come through the door first thing tomorrow morning. Ange was effectively our 6th to 8th choice. That's what I'm being told by people close to the club. And now you can see why he was 6th or 8th. Because anybody with any credibility or any worry about their own CV and reputation, having seen what happened to Pochettino, seeing how we treated Nuno, and then seeing what happened to Jose or Antonio, they don't want to come anywhere near this club.
No, absolutely. Just a couple of comments before we go, because I need to wrap up in the next 120 seconds. By the way, guys, tonight I will be live doing a Champions League score show, but I will be on bigup.com. Thank you to everyone that's come over there and helped me. I think we're 2 members away from the 100 on bigup.com. So if anyone would like to become a member, then please do come and join me there later tonight. I really appreciate it. Here we go. I'll put the link in the chat. And if you would like to be a member, this is the link to become a member. It's free, by the way. You just join the community. But sorry, not a member. Just it's like subscribing on YouTube. There is the link. Bigup.com. I'll be there tonight doing a live Champions League score show. And then you might have a few videos from me over the next 10 days, but I will be in the Dominican Republic. But don't think about robbing my house. My uncle will be staying here with the dogs, so the house will be fully guarded. Please do not try and rob my house. And there are cameras everywhere and YouTube spies everywhere for me. That'll be my last stream tonight, but I am home 24 hours earlier than I thought I was going to be from the Dominican. So my next live stream will be Tottenham Hotspur versus Liverpool. That's a baptism of fire to come back to. Tottenham v Liverpool on Sunday the 22nd. I arrive at Gatwick at 7:30 in the morning, something like that on the Sunday. Guy, listen, Chris, love it as always. Alf, I'm not sticking around for 20 minutes to hear you tell me about why the league-winning manager who's just done 4 in a row was terrible last season. I'm not going to do it, mate. Good luck to you. Chris, thank you very much. Really enjoyed it.
Likewise, always good to chat, and very brave to tell people where you're arriving back into in the country, so we can put numerous phone calls into customs and excise and ensure you get that body cavity search that you've always so much wanted.
Absolutely. By the way, please, as I said, please do get over there. We're on 90.
Let's just hope he has a small fist.
Oh, Jesus Christ. He's got 90. We're on 98 members. We will be live tonight. As I said, Champions League score show. There's loads of championship games as well. The dreadful Pep Guardiola is managing tonight as well at Juventus. Much love, everyone. Take care. Super chat I did not do. I'm so sorry, Ethan. Big up to you. Always a big supporter. Has said since Kane's left, he's had Solanke, Valise, Brennan Johnson, Kulu, Odeberg, Werner ×2. That's 185 million trying to replace one forward who left 18 months ago.
And we've never replaced him.
Ethan, I'll say the same thing that I said then. This is where it becomes about being smart. You don't replace Harry Kanes. They don't exist. You don't replace them. If they do exist, they don't join Tottenham Hotspurs, right? But this, for me, is when, look at Brentford. Sorry, Chris, we are going in 1 second. Look at Brentford. How have they got Mbuemo and Vissa both on 9 Premier League goals each? There's no excuse for it. Brentford's strike partnership have 18 Premier League goals between them. And I'll challenge anyone. How much did Mbuemo and Vissa cost Brentford? Anyone quickly before we leave? Mbuemo and Vissa. Here we go.
Mbuemo's about 5.5 million. I bet Vissa was probably 8.5 or something around that mark.
Well, let's have a look. Johan Vissa. So Johan Vissa cost 10 million euros from Lorient, right? And Mbuemo was 6.5 million euros. So hang on. 16.5 million euros in pounds. Tell me what it is, please. 16.5 million euros in pounds. Oh my God. 12.
Far off, was I? Yeah.
12.5 million pounds sterling. And they've got a strike force that have scored 18 Premier League goals. And Dominic Solanke cost 65. Again, scouting. Chris, much love. Always love you. You know that, dude. Always welcome back on. I'll see some of you tonight for the last stream before I go away. And take care. Much love, everyone. Leave you out. And as always, come on, you Spurs.